This is not just another book about money. It is a story about you, about your dreams, your daily choices, and the small steps that can change your entire future. David Bach begins by saying that we all have a dream. Maybe it is to travel the world. Maybe it is to spend more time with family. Or maybe it is to live without worrying about bills every month. But somewhere along the way, most people lose that dream. They get busy earning, spending, and surviving. Bach reminds us that we do not need to be born rich or have a high-paying job to find freedom. What we really need is awareness. The awareness of how our small, daily habits create our future. He shares how so many people believe they cannot save because they do not earn enough. But in reality, they often spend money on small, unimportant things without realizing how powerful those little amounts can be over time. The author calls this truth the Latte Factor. It is the idea that small daily expenses, like the cost of your favorite coffee, add up to something much bigger. Over time, these little purchases steal your chance at financial freedom. But when you take back that power and redirect it, you can literally buy your freedom. Bach says this book is a story about a young woman named Zoey. Through her journey, readers will discover that they too can transform their lives. The story is simple, but the message is deep. It shows that financial freedom does not begin with luck, inheritance, or huge salaries. It begins with a single decision. He also explains that the Latte Factor is not really about coffee. It is about realizing how every small choice matters. Every dollar, every moment, and every decision can either bring you closer to your dreams or take you further away. The foreword invites you to imagine your own life. What would it feel like to live without debt? To wake up every day knowing you are building something meaningful? Bach's message is that this is not only possible, it is inevitable if you choose to start today. He says that the book will take you on a journey of self-discovery. You will see how one simple idea can change your mindset and your life forever. By the end, you will understand that freedom is not something you wait for. It is something you create. This story is not written to lecture you. It is written to inspire you. The characters you will meet represent people like us. Dreamers who are stuck in the routine of working hard and still feeling broke. But the truth is, wealth is not about having more. It is about realizing what you already have and using it wisely. Bach gently warns that the biggest danger in life is not failure, but living a life you never truly wanted because you were too busy to notice how you were spending your time and your money. So before the story even begins, he gives you a challenge. Look at your life and ask yourself, what is my latte factor? What small habit or expense could I redirect to build the life I really want? Because once you discover your latte factor, everything changes. Not only your wallet, but also your mind, your peace, and your purpose. The foreword ends with an invitation. An invitation to believe that you are capable of achieving financial freedom. That you can start from wherever you are, with whatever you have right now. David Bach says this book is your wake-up call. It is your reminder that wealth is not about luck. It is about awareness, intention, and small steps that compound over time. This story is about money, yes, but more than that, it is about your life. And if you are ready to change your story, your journey starts here. The story begins with a simple idea that has changed millions of lives. David Bach calls it the Latte Factor. At first, it sounds too simple to be true. Can a cup of coffee really change your life? But as Bach explains, this small symbol hides one of the greatest truths about money and freedom. The Latte Factor is not about giving up your favorite drink. It is about waking up. It is about realizing that the little things you spend money on every day hold the secret to your financial future. Most people believe they cannot save because they do not earn enough. They say, I will start saving when I get a raise, or when I have more money, I will invest. But that day never comes. Why? Because it is not about how much you earn. It is about how you manage what you already have. Bach introduces us to Zoey Daniels, a young woman living in New York City. She is smart, ambitious, and creative, but she feels stuck. Her paycheck disappears almost as soon as she receives it. Every month, she promises herself that next time, she will save something. But bills, rent, and daily expenses always win. Like millions of others, Zoey is caught in the cycle of working hard and still feeling broke. One morning, as she stops at her usual coffee shop, something changes. She meets Henry, an older man who works as a barista. He is cheerful and wise, and he seems to know something that Zoey does not. Their conversation begins with a joke about how much people spend on coffee, but soon turns into a lesson about life and freedom. Henry tells Zoey that she is richer than she thinks. She just does not see it yet. He explains that wealth is not built in one day. It grows through small, consistent actions. He asks her to imagine what would happen if she saved the cost of one coffee a day and invested it instead. Zoey laughs at first, thinking it would not make much difference. But Henry insists that even a few dollars a day, wisely used, could grow into hundreds of thousands over time. The idea seems unbelievable. Zoey begins to wonder, what if it is true? What if everything she has been taught about money is wrong? David Bach uses Zoey's journey to show us how most people live unaware of their financial potential. We think freedom is far away, but it is often just hidden behind our daily habits. He reminds us that every dollar we spend has power. We can use it to buy temporary comfort or to build permanent security. The introduction makes one thing clear. The Latte Factor is not about cutting out joy. It is about choice. It is about learning how to use your money to serve your dreams, not your impulses. Bach tells us that anyone, at any age or income level, can start this journey. You do not need to be an expert. You do not need a lot of money. You only need awareness and consistency. The introduction slowly shifts from curiosity to action. Zoey's world begins to change as she decides to explore what Henry told her. She starts noticing where her money goes, how much she spends without thinking, and how little she actually saves. It is uncomfortable at first, but also exciting. Bach makes the message deeply personal. He speaks to you, the listener, as if you are standing beside Zoey in that coffee shop. He asks you to look at your own life. Where does your money go each day? What habits could you change to invest in your freedom instead? The introduction ends with a powerful truth. Financial freedom is not about sacrifice. It is about awareness. Once you open your eyes to where your money flows, you begin to realize how much control you truly have. As Zoey steps out of the coffee shop that morning, she carries something far more valuable than caffeine. She carries a question that will change her life. And that question becomes the spark that lights the first part of the story. The wake-up. It is here that Zoey's real journey begins, guided by unexpected lessons, small discoveries, and the wisdom of a stranger who sees what she cannot yet see. Part 1. The wake-up. Life often moves faster than we notice. We wake up, go to work, pay our bills, scroll through social media, and repeat the same routine day after day. Most people live like this, believing that financial freedom is something far away, almost impossible. They think they need a high-paying job, a lucky break, or an inheritance to achieve it. But David Bach shows us that the truth is very different. Freedom begins with awareness, not money. Zoey Daniels is at that point in her life. She works hard, dreams big, but always feels stuck. Her paycheck seems to vanish before she even sees it, and she wonders if she will ever truly have control over her money. Then comes the wake-up call. A small conversation at her favorite coffee shop changes everything. She meets Henry, a wise and cheerful barista, who asks her a simple question. Where does your money really go? At first, Zoey laughs. She thinks her spending is small, harmless, even necessary. But Henry shows her that the little things, like daily coffee, lunch out, and impulse buys, add up over time. Every dollar has power, he says. It can either disappear into thin air or grow into something meaningful. This is the essence of the Latte Factor. Part 1 is about noticing these habits, facing the truth about where money goes, and understanding that small daily choices determine long-term freedom. It is not about guilt or deprivation. It is about seeing the hidden potential in everyday decisions. Zoey begins to realize that she has more control than she thought. Her money is not just disappearing. It is waiting to be redirected toward her dreams. As she takes her first steps toward awareness, she begins to question her life. Am I truly happy? Am I living the life I want, or the life that just happens to me? These questions become her guide. The wake-up is just the beginning. Zoey's journey is about to take her deeper into understanding her habits, her fears, and her potential. The next chapter, Don't Be a Chicken, will challenge her to face her financial fears and take the first brave steps toward real freedom. Chapter 1. Don't Be a Chicken. Fear is the invisible chain that keeps most people trapped in their financial lives. David Bach begins this chapter by explaining that the biggest obstacle to financial freedom is not a lack of income, but a lack of courage. Most people are scared of money. They are afraid to check their bank accounts, afraid to invest, and afraid to think about the future. This fear keeps them stuck in the endless cycle of working hard, but never feeling free. Zoey Daniels, our guide through this journey, knows this fear all too well. She works long hours, dreams of traveling and owning a home, yet she constantly postpones taking action. Every month, she promises herself that she will start saving, but every month something more urgent comes up. She is like so many of us, trapped by fear, hesitation, and a feeling that she is too small to make a difference. David Bach introduces a simple truth. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to act despite it. He uses the metaphor of a chicken to illustrate how people avoid thinking about money. They peck at small, safe things and run away from anything that seems risky or important. This metaphor is not meant to shame, but to awaken. Most of us live like chickens in a farm, content with safety and routine, unaware of the vast freedom just beyond our daily habits. Zoey's first lesson begins with noticing her habits. She writes down her daily expenses, the small purchases she barely thinks about. It is shocking. Her morning coffee, the snacks, the occasional online splurge, they all add up. The numbers make her uncomfortable, but Bach shows that discomfort is the first sign of awakening. When you see the truth, you cannot ignore it. The first step toward freedom is recognizing that your choices matter. The chapter also emphasizes that small steps are more powerful than waiting for a perfect plan. You do not need to become an expert overnight. You do not need to earn a fortune immediately. Courage comes from taking action, even when it feels tiny. Bach explains that the key is to begin, because every small action compounds over time. The money you save from small changes today can grow into financial security and freedom years from now. Zoey learns that being brave does not mean taking reckless risks. It means being honest with herself, facing her fears, and making a conscious choice to act. She begins to see that freedom is not a distant dream. It is built one small decision at a time. This chapter sets the stage for her to understand the real cost of daily habits, which will be explored in the next chapter, The Price of Coffee. By the end of this chapter, readers realize that courage is the foundation of financial freedom. Without it, awareness and good habits cannot take root. But with courage, even the smallest steps, like noticing where your money goes, can ignite a journey that changes everything. Zoey is ready to take her first real steps, and so are we. The journey is no longer about fear. It is about choice, awareness, and the willingness to start today. Chapter 2. The Price of Coffee. It may seem impossible that something as small as a cup of coffee could have any real impact on your future. Yet David Bach shows us that it is precisely these small, daily choices that shape our financial destiny. This chapter is not about coffee itself. It is about the idea that every dollar we spend has power. Power to either disappear or grow. The cost of a latte, when repeated every day, may seem insignificant, but over months and years, it becomes a barrier to freedom, or a stepping stone toward it. Zoey Daniels begins to notice this truth. She never thought much about her daily habits. Her morning coffee, a quick snack, the occasional impulse purchase. These felt harmless. But when she sits down with Henry, the wise barista, she begins to see the bigger picture. Henry asks her to calculate what she spends on small daily pleasures each month. Zoey is stunned. The numbers are far higher than she ever imagined. She laughs nervously, embarrassed that she never realized the impact. Bach explains that understanding the price of coffee is really about understanding the cost of unconscious spending. Every small purchase is like a tiny leak in a bucket. If you are not aware, the bucket never fills, no matter how much water you pour in. In the same way, earning more money does not guarantee freedom if small, unnoticed habits are draining it away. The chapter also introduces the power of perspective. Zoey begins to see that these daily choices are not just about money. They reflect priorities and values. Are you investing in your future or simply feeding temporary comfort? Each coffee, each snack, each impulsive purchase tells a story about what matters to you. By observing your spending, you gain insight into your life, your habits, and your mindset. Bach emphasizes that it is not about depriving yourself. Freedom does not come from living miserably or giving up joy. It comes from making conscious choices. Zoey starts to feel empowered rather than guilty. She realizes that by redirecting even a small amount of money, she can begin building her future. The latte becomes a symbol, a reminder that every decision counts. Henry also introduces the concept of small, automatic actions. He explains that the best way to take control of your money is to make saving automatic. By setting aside a little each day or each week, Zoey can turn the small amounts she spends on daily pleasures into long-term wealth. The power of time and compounding interest means that even tiny changes today can result in large gains in the future. As Zoey walks home that evening, she reflects on her habits. She begins to notice all the little ways she spends without thinking. The daily convenience, the impulsive purchases, the unnoticed subscriptions. All of it adds up. For the first time, she realizes that freedom is closer than she thought. It is not in some far-off dream or lottery win. It is in her hands, waiting to be claimed through conscious small actions. The chapter ends with a challenge. Start noticing your spending. Write it down, track it, and question every purchase. Zoey understands that awareness is the first step, but action must follow. She is beginning to see that small choices, repeated consistently, hold the key to real change. This realization sets the stage for the next chapter, 3 Secrets to Financial Freedom, where Zoey will learn practical steps to take control of her money and start building lasting wealth. The journey is no longer just about noticing habits. It is about transforming them into a roadmap for freedom. Chapter 3, 3 Secrets to Financial Freedom. By now, Zoey Daniels has begun to see a new world, a world where small choices matter and daily habits shape her future. But noticing the problem is not enough. David Bach explains that to truly achieve financial freedom, you need to understand 3 simple secrets. These are not complicated formulas or strategies that require a financial degree. They are basic, practical truths that anyone can follow, regardless of income or age. The first secret is pay yourself first. Most people spend everything they earn and then wonder why they never have savings. Bach explains that the key is to treat your future self as a priority. Every time you get paid, a portion of your income should automatically go into savings or investments before anything else. Zoey realizes that she has been doing the opposite, paying bills, spending on small pleasures, and hoping there will be something left over. There is rarely anything left, and that is why freedom always feels out of reach. By paying herself first, she starts to take control of her life, rather than letting life control her. The second secret is make it automatic. Bach emphasizes that human nature often works against us. We forget, we procrastinate, or we spend impulsively. Automation solves this problem. By setting up automatic transfers to savings, investments, or retirement accounts, you remove the temptation to spend what you could be investing. Zoey begins to see that this simple step removes stress and makes her future secure without constant effort. What feels like a small action today compounds into massive results over time. It is not magic, it is the power of consistency. The third secret is start early and let time work for you. Time is the greatest ally in building wealth. Even small amounts invested consistently grow exponentially because of compound interest. Bach explains that starting young is more important than saving large amounts later. Zoey realizes that her daily latte, if redirected into an investment account from her 20s, could grow into a substantial nest egg by the time she reaches retirement. The secret is not how much you earn, but how soon you start and how consistently you continue. Time is the ingredient that transforms small, ordinary actions into extraordinary outcomes. These three secrets, when combined, form a simple but powerful system. Bach emphasizes that financial freedom is not about luck, inheritance, or extraordinary intelligence. It is about discipline, awareness, and the willingness to take small, consistent steps. Zoey begins to feel a sense of hope. For the first time, she can see a real path toward her dreams. The chapter also explores the mindset shift that accompanies these secrets. Zoey learns that wealth is not simply about accumulating money. It is about gaining freedom, security, and peace of mind. She begins to understand that money is a tool, not a goal. By mastering these three principles, she can start using her money to create opportunities instead of stress. By the end of this chapter, Zoey's journey takes a decisive turn. She is no longer passively hoping for a better future. She is ready to act. She begins to write down her goals, track her spending, and commit to small, consistent investments. Each step is deliberate, small, and intentional, but together they set the foundation for long-term freedom. This chapter leads naturally into the next, Are You Happy?, where Zoey will examine the deeper purpose behind her financial choices. Bach reminds readers that money alone does not create happiness. True freedom comes when your financial actions align with your values, dreams, and life purpose. Zoey's journey is about to move from awareness and strategy to personal meaning and fulfillment. Chapter 4. Are You Happy? Money is often mistaken for happiness. Many people chase higher salaries, bigger houses, and luxury items, thinking that wealth will solve their problems and make life fulfilling. David Bach, through Zoey's journey, shows that true financial freedom is not about money alone. It is about living a life aligned with your values, dreams, and passions. This chapter is a gentle but powerful reminder that happiness must guide our financial choices. Zoey Daniels begins to reflect on her life. She has been so focused on paying bills, meeting obligations, and following routines that she barely stops to ask herself what she truly wants. The latte, the snacks, the impulse purchases. These small habits were never about joy. They were distractions, temporary comforts in a life that feels too busy and too constrained. Bach emphasizes that noticing these patterns is the first step toward change. Awareness alone can spark transformation. The chapter introduces the idea that every financial decision is a reflection of what we value. If you spend money on things that do not bring long-term satisfaction, you are investing in temporary comfort rather than your true dreams. Zoey begins to ask herself hard questions. Am I using my money to create freedom or to buy distractions? Am I living intentionally or just reacting to life as it happens? Bach also explains the concept of a freedom account. This is money set aside not just to save or invest, but to create the life you truly want. It is the fund that allows you to travel, pursue passions, start a business, or take risks that align with your dreams. By separating this money from daily expenses, Zoey can start making conscious choices instead of unconscious reactions. Small, deliberate contributions to this account every month can grow into the foundation of a life designed by intention rather than obligation. Another key insight in this chapter is that happiness is often tied to control, not excess. Zoey realizes that she does not need a huge salary or extravagant purchases to feel free. What she needs is control over her choices. When she understands this, every small change, skipping an unnecessary coffee, automating savings, tracking expenses, becomes a step toward empowerment. Financial freedom is less about how much you have, and more about how much control you gain over your life. Bach encourages readers to connect their financial actions with their larger life goals. Zoey begins to dream more vividly. She imagines traveling, learning new skills, and giving back to causes she cares about. Each small saving, each redirected dollar, becomes not just a number, but a tool to achieve a meaningful life. The joy comes not from the money itself, but from the possibilities it creates. The chapter closes with a reflection. Happiness and money are intertwined only when money is used wisely and intentionally. Zoey feels a growing sense of empowerment. For the first time, she sees that financial freedom is not a distant dream. It is achievable, but it requires more than awareness. It requires aligning every choice with what she truly values. This chapter leads naturally into the next one, the lighthouse, where Zoey will encounter a guiding symbol that represents long-term vision, direction, and purpose. Bach prepares readers to understand that awareness and happiness must be paired with a clear vision to navigate the path toward freedom. The journey is moving from noticing habits and aligning values toward creating a roadmap that will guide every step forward. Chapter 5. The Lighthouse. Every journey needs a guiding light, something that keeps you focused when the waves of daily life threaten to pull you off course. In this chapter, David Bach introduces the metaphor of the lighthouse. Just as sailors rely on a lighthouse to navigate safely through stormy waters, we need a clear vision for our financial and personal lives to avoid drifting aimlessly. Zoey Daniels begins to see that without a guiding principle, awareness and small changes are not enough. Zoey has learned to notice her habits, track her spending, and dream about what she wants. She has begun to understand the power of small, consistent actions. But now she realizes that she needs something bigger than daily choices, a long-term vision that will guide her decisions and keep her motivated. Bach explains that the lighthouse represents that vision, a clear picture of the life you want to create, including the freedom, experiences, and impact that matter most. The chapter emphasizes that without a lighthouse, people are easily distracted. Unexpected expenses, social pressures, or temporary desires can steer them off course. Many work hard and save, but without a guiding purpose, the effort feels empty. Zoey reflects on her own life and realizes that she has been drifting, responding to the demands of others and society, instead of following her own path. The lighthouse gives her a reason to stay disciplined, to make deliberate choices, and to stay committed even when progress seems slow. Bach introduces a practical exercise for finding your lighthouse. He asks readers to imagine their ideal life, not just in terms of money, but in experiences, relationships, and personal growth. What would a perfect day look like in 5, 10, or 20 years? Where would you live? What would you do? And who would you spend time with? Writing this down creates a mental beacon, a guiding principle that informs every financial and life decision. Zoey begins to sketch her own lighthouse, a life where she has control over her time, can pursue passions, and contributes meaningfully to causes she cares about. The chapter also explores the emotional impact of a lighthouse. It gives hope and motivation, particularly during challenging moments. Bach points out that people often give up on saving or investing when they do not see immediate results. The lighthouse reminds them of the bigger picture. Zoey feels inspired because she can now visualize the life she is working toward. Every small action, every skipped coffee, every automatic saving contribution becomes meaningful because it is connected to a larger purpose. Bach reinforces that the lighthouse is personal. It is not about comparing yourself to others or following societal expectations. It is about discovering what truly matters to you. For Zoey, it becomes a symbol of freedom, joy, and self-mastery. For readers, it is a tool to focus attention, energy, and resources toward meaningful outcomes. By the end of this chapter, Zoey feels a sense of clarity she has never known before. She understands that awareness, courage, and alignment with values must now be paired with a vision, a lighthouse that will guide her through challenges and decisions. Her journey is no longer reactive, it is intentional. This chapter naturally sets the stage for Part 2, the lesson, where Zoey will learn practical tools to put her vision into action. She will discover how to make saving automatic, pay herself first, and begin living in alignment with her dreams. The lighthouse is the foundation, and now she is ready to build the structure that will turn awareness into transformation. Part 2. The lesson. Awareness alone cannot create change. Noticing habits, understanding spending, and imagining a better life are important, but they only lay the foundation. True transformation comes when knowledge is turned into action. In Part 2, Zoey Daniels begins the practical work of taking control over her financial life. She has awakened to the power of her choices, discovered what she truly values, and found her lighthouse. Now it is time to build the tools and habits that will turn her vision into reality. David Bach emphasizes that most people fail not because they lack income, but because they lack systems. Without simple, consistent practices, even the most aware and motivated individuals drift back into old patterns. Zoey realizes this as she tries to apply her new insights. She feels motivated, but motivation alone is fragile. Life is full of distractions, temptations, and emergencies. Without structure, even the best intentions can be derailed. This part of the journey focuses on creating those structures. Bach introduces the idea that small, automatic actions can transform financial freedom from a dream into a habit. By making saving automatic, setting aside money for the future, and prioritizing her own financial growth, Zoey begins to experience empowerment. These habits are not difficult or time-consuming, but they require consistency. They are the bridge between awareness and independence. The lessons in this section also challenge old mindsets. Zoey begins to see that paying herself first is not selfish. It is necessary. Investing in her future is more important than temporary pleasures. Living rich now does not mean spending freely. It means aligning her daily actions with the life she truly wants. Each small choice compounds, and each decision builds momentum toward freedom. Bach shows that the most successful people are not necessarily the ones who earn the most. They are the ones who master these simple principles consistently over time. Zoey's journey illustrates this truth in a relatable way. She is not wealthy yet, but the tools she begins to adopt lay the foundation for exponential growth and long-term security. By the end of this section, Zoey is ready to put theory into practice. She will learn how to make saving automatic, pay herself first without guilt, and start living intentionally rather than reactively. Each lesson is designed to be simple, actionable, and sustainable, showing that financial mastery is accessible to everyone. The next chapter, Make It Automatic, will show Zoey the first practical step toward this transformation. It is here that she discovers how to remove friction, overcome procrastination, and turn small daily actions into unstoppable momentum. The journey moves from understanding and dreaming to doing and achieving. Chapter 6. Make It Automatic. One of the biggest obstacles to financial freedom is human nature itself. David Bach explains that most people intend to save and invest, but life gets in the way. Bills pile up, unexpected expenses appear, and impulses tempt us to spend. Even the most disciplined individuals can falter if their system relies solely on willpower. This is where automation becomes a game changer. Zoey Daniels begins to see that relying on discipline alone is fragile. She has learned about her habits, her spending patterns, and the cost of small indulgences. She understands her lighthouse and what she wants from life. But without a system, these insights remain ideas, not results. Bach teaches that the simplest way to ensure consistency is to automate. By setting up automatic transfers from checking accounts to savings or investment accounts, Zoey can make progress without constant effort. The money moves itself, growing quietly in the background. Automation removes the temptation to spend what is meant to be saved. It also removes the stress of decision-making. Instead of wondering, should I save this month or spend it? The system works automatically. Every dollar that flows into savings or investments becomes a step toward freedom, even if Zoey forgets about it for months. Over time, these small, consistent contributions grow into substantial wealth thanks to the power of compounding. Bach emphasizes that automation is not complicated. It does not require financial genius or large sums of money. Even small, regular contributions create momentum. Zoey begins by redirecting money she would have spent on daily indulgences, like coffee or snacks, into an investment account. She is surprised at how simple it feels. There is no struggle, no guilt, only a growing sense of control. The chapter also explores the emotional benefits of automation. Zoey feels relief and empowerment. She realizes that she is no longer at the mercy of her impulses or external pressures. Each automated transfer reinforces her commitment to her goals. Over time, this creates confidence and a sense of mastery that extends beyond money. She begins to see that taking control of finances strengthens self-discipline and cultivates patience, a key trait for long-term success. Bach highlights that automation is the bridge between knowing and doing. Most people know they should save, yet only a few consistently act. The difference lies in systems, not knowledge. By automating, Zoey ensures that progress continues even when life is busy or unpredictable. This small step transforms her daily habits into a powerful engine for freedom. By the end of the chapter, Zoey feels a shift in perspective. Money is no longer a source of anxiety. It becomes a tool that works for her. The journey has moved from awareness to action, and the momentum is building. She has learned that freedom is less about income and more about strategy and consistency. The next chapter, Paying Yourself First, builds on this foundation. Zoey will learn how prioritizing her own financial growth before bills or discretionary spending strengthens her system even further. This principle will teach her that the best investment she can make is in herself and her future, setting the stage for living rich now and building real wealth over time. Chapter 7. Paying Yourself First. Most people spend their money as if they have no control, putting bills, obligations, and small pleasures ahead of themselves. David Bach explains that this is one of the biggest mistakes people make on the path to financial freedom. The principle of paying yourself first flips this pattern entirely. Before you pay anyone else or indulge in daily comforts, a portion of your income should go directly toward your future, savings, investments, or your freedom fund. Zoey Daniels begins to understand that financial freedom is not about earning more. It is about prioritizing wisely. For years, she had been caught in the cycle of paycheck-to-paycheck living, reacting to expenses rather than shaping her own life. Bach emphasizes that paying yourself first is not selfish. It is a commitment to the life you want to create. By investing in your future first, you ensure that your money serves you, rather than being consumed by distractions or emergencies. The chapter explains how simple this can be. Zoey starts by setting up automatic transfers, ensuring a fixed portion of her income goes into a savings account before she even sees the rest. The result is immediate. She feels empowered, in control, and optimistic about the future. Bach points out that small, consistent amounts matter more than large, occasional contributions. A tiny amount saved regularly compounds into significant wealth over time. Bach also introduces the emotional aspect of this principle. Zoey begins to feel a sense of ownership over her life. When you pay yourself first, you are no longer living reactively. You are actively shaping your future. This confidence spills into other areas of her life. She starts making better choices, not just financially, but in how she spends her time, energy, and attention. Financial discipline becomes a reflection of self-respect and purpose. The chapter highlights common pitfalls. Many people delay paying themselves, thinking they need to clear all bills first or save later. But this mindset keeps freedom perpetually out of reach. Bach stresses that paying yourself first, no matter how small the amount, signals commitment to your long-term goals. It transforms saving from an afterthought into a priority. Zoey realizes that this principle is not about restriction. It is about empowerment. By practicing paying herself first, Zoey begins to notice a shift in her mindset. Money is no longer something that disappears without meaning. Every contribution becomes a tangible step toward her lighthouse, her vision of a life with control, freedom, and purpose. She starts connecting her daily actions to her dreams, creating momentum that feels exciting rather than burdensome. This chapter prepares the way for living rich now, where Zoey will explore the idea that financial freedom is not just about saving for the future. It is also about enjoying life today. Bach shows that living rich is about balance, enjoying meaningful experiences in the present while building a secure, abundant future. Zoey is now ready to embrace this principle, combining discipline with joy and making each moment and each dollar count toward a life she truly values. Chapter 8. Living Rich Now. Many people assume that financial freedom means giving up enjoyment today to secure wealth tomorrow. David Bach challenges this belief. True financial freedom is not about deprivation. It is about balance. It is about learning how to live richly in the present while still building a secure future. Zoey Daniels begins to understand that her daily choices can serve both joy and purpose if approached intentionally. The chapter opens with a simple but powerful idea. Living rich does not require extravagance. It is not measured by the size of your paycheck or the luxury of your possessions. Living rich is about aligning your spending with your values and priorities. Every dollar should reflect what matters most to you. Zoey begins to ask herself, am I spending money on things that truly bring happiness, or on habits and distractions that fill time without meaning? Bach emphasizes that living richly starts with awareness. Zoey reviews her daily routines, purchases, and choices. She notices that many expenses, previously considered small or harmless, do not add lasting value. She begins to redirect her resources toward experiences, personal growth, and relationships that bring genuine satisfaction. For example, skipping a daily indulgence that adds no real joy frees up money that can be invested or used for meaningful experiences. The chapter also highlights the importance of mindset. Zoey learns that scarcity thinking, believing there is never enough, limits freedom and joy. Living rich now requires a mindset of abundance, recognizing that every intentional choice contributes to both present happiness and future security. Bach explains that when people understand this principle, they stop feeling guilty about saving and start feeling empowered by the decisions they make. Zoey experiments with small actions. She treats herself intentionally rather than impulsively. A modest dinner with a close friend becomes more meaningful than an expensive night out spent mindlessly. A weekend class in something she loves brings more satisfaction than shopping for material goods. Bach calls this approach conscious spending. Every action aligns with her values, creating a sense of fulfillment while still contributing to her long-term goals. Another key lesson is the integration of joy and discipline. Zoey realizes that building wealth does not require extreme sacrifice. By automating savings, paying herself first, and living intentionally, she creates a system that works for her. The money saved grows quietly in the background, while she continues to enjoy life. This balance transforms how she views money, from a source of stress to a tool for freedom and fulfillment. By the end of the chapter, Zoey feels a profound shift. Living rich now is not just about dollars and cents. It is about empowerment, choice, and clarity. She understands that her daily decisions, guided by her lighthouse and supported by automated systems, are creating a life of freedom and purpose. Each day becomes an opportunity to practice intentional living, combining present satisfaction with future security. This chapter naturally leads into The Millionaire You, where Zoey will explore her own potential. Bach encourages readers to see that financial freedom is not just about money. It is about becoming the person capable of creating the life you truly desire. Zoey is ready to step into her full potential, understanding that the habits she forms today shape not just her finances, but her identity and future. Chapter 9: The Millionaire. You. Many people imagine that becoming a millionaire is reserved for the lucky, the highly educated, or those born into wealth. David Bach shatters this myth. He explains that anyone, regardless of income or background, can become financially independent by adopting the right habits, mindset, and systems. Zoey Daniels begins to understand that wealth is less about luck and more about consistent actions and disciplined choices. The chapter begins by examining the difference between rich and wealthy. Being rich often means having money temporarily or appearing successful, but wealth is sustainable. Wealth is created through habits that prioritize the future without sacrificing the present. Zoey realizes that she has been chasing superficial markers of success, thinking that earning more or buying more would make her happy. Bach emphasizes that financial freedom starts by becoming the kind of person who naturally attracts and manages wealth. This is what he calls the millionaire you. Zoey learns that becoming the millionaire version of herself requires 3 key practices. First, conscious awareness of where money goes. She has already started tracking her daily spending and noticing small patterns that add up. Awareness turns habits into choices and prevents unconscious losses. Second, automation. By making saving and investing automatic, Zoey ensures her money works for her consistently, building wealth without constant effort. Third, aligning spending with values. Zoey discovers that true wealth is not just measured in numbers, but in the freedom to live according to her priorities and passions. Bach explains that most people fail to become financially independent because they wait for perfect conditions or a big break. Zoey sees that the secret to becoming a millionaire is ordinary actions repeated consistently over time. A latte saved here, a small investment there, and automated contributions each month create a compounding effect that grows quietly, steadily, and powerfully. This compounding is often invisible at first, but over years it transforms ordinary savers into millionaires. The chapter also explores mindset. Zoey confronts limiting beliefs. She doubts her ability to save enough, fears making mistakes, and worries that financial freedom is unattainable. Bach reassures readers that the most important step is to start, no matter how small. Courage and consistency are far more valuable than intelligence or opportunity. Each action Zoey takes, tracking, saving, investing, reinforces her confidence and transforms her identity. She begins to see herself as capable, disciplined, and proactive, the very traits of the millionaire she aspires to become. Bach uses real-life examples of ordinary people who, by following small steps consistently, built wealth over time. Zoey realizes that these stories are not exceptions. They are proof that financial freedom is accessible to anyone willing to act. This perspective shifts her focus from wishing for sudden wealth to practicing deliberate habits that compound into success. By the end of the chapter, Zoey feels empowered and motivated. She understands that becoming a millionaire is not a distant dream or a fantasy. It is a result of conscious choices, consistent habits, and disciplined action. She now sees that financial freedom is achievable for herself and anyone willing to follow the same principles. This understanding sets the stage for Part 3, the transformation, where Zoey will discover the deeper truths behind the Latte Factor. She will learn how time and small, consistent actions combine to create extraordinary freedom. The journey moves from building habits and mindset to experiencing the real transformation of her financial and personal life. Part 3. The Transformation. Awareness and disciplined habits create a foundation, but true freedom comes when these actions transform into a life-changing reality. In Part 3, Zoey Daniels begins to experience the deeper power of the Latte Factor. She has awakened to her habits, learned to prioritize her future, automated her savings, and embraced the mindset of financial independence. Now it is time to see how small, consistent choices, guided by vision and purpose, can create exponential results over time. David Bach explains that most people never experience this transformation because they stop at awareness or short-term action. They save a little, try to budget, and then give up when results are not immediate. The transformation happens when awareness, action, and patience intersect. It is the moment when the small daily decisions, once overlooked, compound into freedom, security, and choice. Zoey begins to see this in her own life. The money she has been saving quietly is growing. Each automated transfer, each intentional spending decision, each investment is working silently, creating a future she once thought was impossible. This part emphasizes the power of time. Bach calls time the most powerful tool for building wealth. Even small amounts, invested consistently and early, grow far beyond what most people imagine. Zoey begins to understand that financial freedom is not about immediate gratification. It is about trusting the process, committing to consistency, and allowing compounding to work its magic. Time turns ordinary actions into extraordinary results. The transformation also explores mindset shifts beyond money. Zoey starts to see that freedom is not just financial, it is emotional, mental, and personal. By taking control of her finances, she gains confidence, clarity, and a sense of purpose. Each small step reinforces her belief that she can design her life, not just react to it. Bach explains that the greatest wealth is the ability to make choices without fear, to pursue passions, and to live in alignment with values. By the end of this part, Zoey is ready to uncover the full meaning of the Latte Factor. She has learned the principles, adopted the habits, and embraced the mindset. Now she will see how small daily actions, when combined with time, patience, and consistency, create results that feel almost magical. The journey moves from understanding and habit building to experiencing real-life transformation. The next chapter, The Latte Factor Revealed, will show Zoey and readers how everyday choices, seemingly insignificant, are the hidden keys to extraordinary wealth and freedom. It is here that the true power of her journey becomes clear, connecting all the lessons from awareness, habit, and mindset into a life-changing revelation. Chapter 10. The Latte Factor Revealed. Most people overlook the hidden power of small, everyday choices. David Bach introduces the idea that financial freedom is not about earning more, taking huge risks, or finding a magic solution. It is about recognizing the impact of seemingly insignificant decisions repeated consistently over time. This is the essence of the Latte Factor. Zoey Daniels begins to understand that her daily habits, what she drinks, eats, or buys on impulse, carry more weight than she ever imagined. The chapter opens with a simple example: the cost of a daily latte. On its own, it seems trivial, almost negligible. But when multiplied by days, weeks, and years, it becomes a substantial amount, money that could have been invested or saved for long-term growth. Bach explains that the same principle applies to all small, regular expenditures that do not align with your values or goals. Zoey realizes that these small leaks in her finances have quietly been holding her back. Bach emphasizes that the Latte Factor is not about guilt or deprivation. It is about awareness and choice. Zoey learns that skipping a daily latte is not the goal. The goal is to redirect resources toward meaningful outcomes. Every small dollar can either disappear in the present or grow exponentially for the future. This realization shifts her perspective from scarcity to possibility. She begins to see that freedom is built on the accumulation of small, intentional actions over time. The chapter also highlights the emotional and psychological aspects of the Latte Factor. Zoey understands that many people avoid facing their spending habits because it feels uncomfortable or overwhelming, but avoiding the truth only keeps them trapped. Bach encourages readers to embrace honesty and curiosity. By examining where money goes, Zoey gains clarity and control. Awareness becomes empowerment, and small adjustments create momentum that feels almost effortless over time. Bach introduces practical steps for applying the Latte Factor. Zoey begins by identifying habitual spending that does not serve her goals. She sets aside those amounts for automatic savings or investments. She experiments with redirecting even tiny sums, observing how consistency compounds results. Over time, she witnesses the extraordinary impact of these simple actions. A few dollars a day, invested wisely, become thousands, then tens of thousands, and eventually provide financial freedom and security. The revelation is deeper than money. Zoey realizes that the Latte Factor applies to all areas of life: time, energy, and focus. Small choices repeated consistently shape not only her finances, but her health, relationships, and personal growth. By taking control of these small, everyday decisions, she begins to feel empowered in every aspect of life. By the end of this chapter, Zoey understands the hidden truth. Freedom is not reserved for the lucky or the wealthy. It is built one small, deliberate choice at a time. The daily habits she once dismissed are the keys to creating a life of independence, purpose, and joy. She begins to see her small actions as powerful tools, transforming the ordinary into extraordinary over time. The next chapter, The Power of Time, will show how patience and consistency amplify the results of the Latte Factor. Zoey will learn that when small actions are sustained over years, time becomes the most potent ally in building wealth, freedom, and a life designed by intention. Chapter 11. The Power of Time. Time is the secret weapon of financial freedom. David Bach emphasizes that even the smallest actions, when repeated consistently over long periods, create extraordinary results. Zoey Daniels begins to understand that time is more powerful than income, talent, or luck. The earlier you start, the more your money, habits, and choices can grow and compound into true freedom. The chapter begins by exploring the concept of compounding, Money invested consistently does more than grow. It grows exponentially. Zoey learns that a small daily or monthly contribution, seemingly insignificant on its own, multiplies over years into a significant sum. A latte saved here, a modest investment there, becomes the foundation for a life she once thought was unattainable. Bach explains that patience is essential. Compounding requires time, but it rewards those who start early and stay consistent. Zoey reflects on her own journey. She realizes that she once believed that wealth required a sudden windfall or extraordinary talent. Bach demonstrates that consistent action, even in small amounts, outpaces sporadic large efforts. Time amplifies every intentional choice. Zoey begins to see her financial future not as a distant dream, but as a reality she can shape day by day. The chapter also highlights the psychological challenge of time. Most people focus on immediate gratification and underestimate the value of long-term consistency. They feel that small contributions do not matter, or that the results are too far in the future to be meaningful. Zoey learns that this thinking is the enemy of financial freedom. Every day she waits to start, every dollar she spends without thought, is a lost opportunity. Bach encourages readers to embrace a mindset of long-term vision, understanding that time is the greatest ally for those who act with discipline. Practical strategies are presented to harness the power of time. Zoey begins to automate investments, commit to consistent contributions, and resist the urge to touch money set aside for the future. Bach emphasizes that early and consistent action builds both wealth and confidence. Zoey notices that as time works for her, her fear and doubt begin to fade. The process becomes empowering rather than intimidating. Another key insight is that time works alongside the Latte Factor. Small choices, repeated daily, grow quietly in the background. Zoey realizes that she no longer needs to wait for the perfect income, perfect job, or perfect opportunity. By starting today, she lets time do the heavy lifting. The magic lies in the combination of disciplined habits and the patient passage of years. By the end of the chapter, Zoey feels a profound sense of possibility. She understands that the life she wants is achievable, not through luck or sudden windfalls, but through consistent, intentional action sustained over time. Time becomes her greatest ally, turning small, everyday choices into extraordinary outcomes. This chapter leads naturally into Freedom is Closer Than You Think, where Zoey will see the tangible results of her consistent actions and understand how financial freedom is not a distant dream, but a reachable reality. The journey is moving from understanding and habit building to experiencing the real impact of her choices on her life and future. Chapter 12. Freedom is Closer Than You Think. After learning about awareness, habits, automation, and the power of time, Zoey Daniels finally begins to see the reality of financial freedom. David Bach emphasizes that freedom is not a distant dream or a fantasy reserved for the wealthy. It is the natural result of consistent, small, intentional actions repeated over time. Zoey realizes that the life she once thought was out of reach is now closer than she imagined. The chapter opens with reflection. Zoey looks back at her journey, noticing her habits, prioritizing her savings, automating contributions, and understanding the exponential power of time. Each small step has built momentum, and she begins to experience a sense of control and independence. Bach explains that freedom is not only financial, it is the ability to make choices without fear, to pursue passions, and to live intentionally. Zoey learns that many people misunderstand freedom. They think it requires large incomes, risky ventures, or perfect timing. Bach reminds readers that freedom is achieved by ordinary people making extraordinary use of small opportunities consistently. By redirecting even minor daily expenditures toward meaningful investments, by living intentionally, and by letting time amplify her actions, Zoey is creating a life where she can choose rather than react. The chapter emphasizes the psychological shift that accompanies financial freedom. Zoey feels less stress, less guilt, and more confidence. She begins to recognize that money is a tool, not a burden, and that her consistent actions have created possibilities she once thought were impossible. The daily habits she adopted, skipping unnecessary expenses, automating savings, and paying herself first are now paying off. She sees tangible results, not only in numbers, but in her peace of mind and sense of control. Bach also highlights the importance of mindset. Zoey realizes that freedom is not a single moment or destination. It is a process. It is about knowing that each choice contributes to a larger purpose and that each action, however small, matters. The Latte Factor, once a simple metaphor about daily spending, has transformed into a philosophy for life. Small, deliberate choices consistently applied lead to extraordinary outcomes. The chapter explores practical steps to solidify freedom. Zoey continues to track her habits, increase her investments gradually, and align her spending with her values. She understands that flexibility is part of freedom. She can enjoy life now while securing her future. Each decision reinforces her sense of empowerment, creating a virtuous cycle. The more control she gains, the more freedom she experiences, which motivates her to continue acting wisely. By the end of the chapter, Zoey feels the full impact of her journey. Financial freedom is no longer abstract. It is a living reality. She understands that she does not need luck or extraordinary circumstances. She needs consistent habits, awareness, and the patience to let time work its magic. The dream of independence, choice, and purpose is now within reach. This realization naturally leads into the epilogue, Your Latte Factor Journey Begins, where readers are invited to take their first steps, apply the lessons, and begin their own path toward financial freedom. Zoey's story is complete, but her journey, and the readers', has only just begun. Epilogue: Your Latte Factor Journey begins. Zoey Daniels' journey illustrates a simple yet profound truth. Financial freedom is accessible to everyone, regardless of income, background, or circumstances. David Bach closes the book by inviting readers to take the first step on their own journey. Awareness, habits, automation, and time are powerful tools, but they only work when you start acting on them. The epilogue is a call to action, reminding readers that the life they dream of is closer than they think. The chapter begins by reinforcing the key lessons. Small, daily choices matter more than we often realize. Every latte, every snack, every minor purchase carries potential, either to be wasted or to be redirected toward creating freedom. Zoey understands now that the Latte Factor is not about depriving herself. It is about intentionality. Each decision becomes a building block for the life she wants, shaping her financial reality and her sense of empowerment. Bach emphasizes that the journey begins with awareness. Readers are encouraged to examine their own spending habits and identify areas where money is quietly slipping away. Tracking these patterns is the first step toward control. Zoey's story shows that even small adjustments, repeated consistently, can have massive long-term effects. The epilogue encourages embracing these small wins without waiting for perfection. Each step, no matter how tiny, compounds over time into real freedom. Automation is highlighted again as a critical tool. Zoey set up systems that move money into savings and investments automatically, removing the need for constant decision-making or reliance on willpower alone. Bach reminds readers that starting even with a small amount is better than waiting to save a large sum later. The key is consistency, not magnitude. Time becomes the invisible partner in this journey, amplifying even the smallest contributions into meaningful results. The chapter also encourages aligning financial actions with personal values and life goals. Living rich now does not mean extravagance. It means spending intentionally on what truly matters while securing a future of freedom. Zoey has experienced this shift. She feels empowered, in control, and capable of designing her life. Bach reminds readers that the journey is as much about mindset as money. By embracing responsibility and taking deliberate action, anyone can transform their habits into a life of choice and abundance. Bach concludes by stressing that the journey is personal. The Latte Factor will look different for each individual. For some, it may involve cutting small daily expenses. For others, it may mean reallocating energy, time, or focus. The common thread is conscious decision-making and consistent action. Zoey's story becomes a blueprint, demonstrating that anyone willing to start can create the freedom to live on their own terms. The epilogue leaves readers with a sense of hope and possibility. It is a gentle but powerful reminder. Your journey begins today, not tomorrow. Each choice, each habit, and each small investment of time, money, or energy adds up. The life you dream of, financial independence, freedom, and purpose, is within reach if you take action consistently. Zoey's journey has revealed the path. Now it is the reader's turn to walk it. The final message is clear. Your Latte Factor journey begins the moment you decide to start. Embrace awareness, automate action, pay yourself first, and allow time to transform small steps into extraordinary freedom. Every choice counts, and the life you desire is waiting, closer than you ever imagined. Acknowledgements. Every journey, whether in life or in writing, is supported by the people and experiences that shape it. David Bach opens this final section by expressing gratitude to those who inspired, guided, and supported him in creating the Latte Factor. The book is not just a collection of financial principles. It is the result of collaboration, mentorship, and encouragement from countless individuals who shared wisdom, insight, and encouragement along the way. Bach acknowledges his family, whose support and belief in his vision allowed him to focus on helping others achieve financial freedom. Their patience, understanding, and love provided the foundation upon which his work was built. He emphasizes that no meaningful achievement is created alone, and the same principle applies to financial journeys. Support, advice, and shared knowledge can amplify results and accelerate growth. He also thanks mentors, colleagues, and readers who contributed ideas, stories, and examples that enriched the book. Zoey Daniels' story, though fictional, is inspired by real-life experiences of ordinary people taking small, intentional actions to transform their lives. These stories demonstrate that the principles of the Latte Factor are not theoretical. They are practical, achievable, and relatable. Bach highlights the importance of community and learning from others. Financial freedom is often seen as a solitary pursuit, but sharing knowledge, asking questions, and seeking guidance strengthens results. Readers are encouraged to discuss their journeys, share strategies, and support others in adopting small, consistent actions that compound over time. Finally, Bach thanks the readers themselves. The purpose of the book is to inspire action, awareness, and transformation. Every person who chooses to read, reflect, and implement the lessons of the Latte Factor contributes to a ripple effect, empowering themselves, their families, and even communities. He reminds readers that their small actions today create lasting impact, far beyond what they may realize. The acknowledgements close with a note of encouragement. The journey toward financial freedom is ongoing, but with awareness, intentional action, and patience, it is entirely within reach. Zoey's story is complete, but the reader's story is just beginning. The tools, habits, and mindset provided in the book are a blueprint, and it is now up to each individual to apply them, take control of their finances, and step confidently into a life of choice, purpose, and freedom. This concludes the Latte Factor. The journey from awareness to transformation is now fully mapped, leaving readers with the knowledge, inspiration, and practical steps needed to begin their own path to financial independence today.